One of the things that is often overlooked and in fact ignored is the influence of foreign powers in Kenyan politics, especially as far as the presidency is concerned. Yeah, influence of foreign powers in a general election like the one you're about to face, vis-a-vis the person who is going to take over the presidency, or even the incumbent retaining the presidency. Yeah, there's a lot of interference normally from foreign powers. There's a lot of influence from foreign powers, very powerful foreign powers. I'm talking about superpowers like the United States, countries like Britain, which have had a long-standing relationship and have got many links and interests in the country. Now, I've read a lot of articles in the press and elsewhere which show that Kenyans are totally ignorant about this issue, and yet it's a very important issue. A lot of people believe these spooks in organizations like CIA or Britain's MI6, yeah, MI6 by this stands for Military Intelligence Section 6, yeah, organization, and that's the British intelligence that deals with the foreign services, yeah. Many people believe that all these things are the stuff of movies. They do not understand what their objective is, especially in countries like Kenya. Okay, so very briefly in this recording, I will try and make a few revelations so that you understand, and especially the revelation what the Foreign Intelligence Service have in mind for Kenya for 2017. Now you need to understand that most of these operations done are covert. They're highly secret, yeah, and will be denied in the strongest terms possible. Yeah, the idea is always never to leave any evidence that even they are there, never to leave any evidence that they're even involved. But we know for a fact that foreign powers have been involved a lot in Kenya, and the reason is very simple. Kenya is a very strategic country in Africa. It's impossible to do any serious operation in Africa or to do anything serious in Africa while ignoring Kenya, while ignoring Nairobi. It's virtually impossible. Okay, so everything goes through Kenya, everything goes through Nairobi. For most of Africa, that is the situation. Not to mention their vast interests locally. And so these organizations are, of course, very interested in our politics, very interested in the people who are going to take over power, what their thinking is, whether they'll be cooperative or not, for very important strategic plans that they have for their country, for the interests of their individual countries, vis-a-vis that concerns Kenya. Okay. Now I'll give you one quick example from 1968, 1969, when the foreign power, superpower, the United States, were very keen to get rid of all Soviet influence in Kenya. At that time, we had a fairly strong Soviet influence because the Soviets were actually financing the opposition at that time, which was the Kenya People's Union. The leader of that party was, of course, Jaramogi Oginga Odinga, father of Raila. And what they did is they assisted our government to be able to completely neutralize and remove from politics Jaramogi Oginga Odinga, so that there is no direct support and there's no influence from the Soviets in Kenya, which they did successfully. Now, of course, the Soviets had already financed quite a number of projects in Kenya. One of them, which still stands today, is a hospital in Kisumu, yeah, which has always been nicknamed Russia. Yeah, now you know why. Okay, they financed that, and Jaramogi was receiving a lot of financing from the Eastern Bloc, and it was very important for the United States through their secret service, the Central Intelligence Agency, the CIA. They managed to completely neutralize, of course, with the assistance of the local intelligence. Okay, that's one straight example. Now, the reason why I've given that example influenced the 2007 elections. How? I can hear you asking. Okay, the way it influenced that election was that the Americans were backing the incumbent at that time, President Mwai Kibaki, to retain power. And despite the widespread support and the clear indication very early on that Raila Odinga was going to win those elections, the Americans backed Kibaki to the hilt to ensure that the country would not be taken over by Raila Odinga and ODM. Now, the reason for this was very simple. Raila found it very hard to shake off the image his father had in the eyes of the foreign powers. That is the links to Eastern Bloc, Eastern Europe, and especially considering the fact that Raila Odinga had his education in East Germany, which was part of the Eastern Bloc at that time. Of course, the Cold War is over, but if you have studied international politics, you will know that countries in the Eastern Bloc, especially Russia, are still looked upon with suspicion, and it is in the interest of superpowers like the US and other countries like the UK to ensure that their influence in African countries is minimal. Okay, and of course the other great enemy in international politics, of course, is China. Now, where there's cooperation from a local government, these foreign secret organizations like the CIA will mainly liaise, give consultancy services to be able to get the objectives done. More importantly, they will try and bring the objectives in tandem with the local objectives. For instance, they would tell a country like Kenya that a strong Russian influence in the country will minimize aid and support from the Western countries. And normally that does the trick. Of course, I've greatly simplified it. It's normally, especially these days, it's normally a bit more complex than that, but at least you get the general idea. Now on to 2017. The big question we must ask ourselves is what are the Americans thinking about 2017? Which candidates would they not like to see taking over power in Kenya? Which candidates would they prefer, for their particular objectives that they want to meet? Same with Britain. Now, don't think that Britain and America always agree. They don't. A very good example again is in 1969. In 1969, the British supported fully the government of Jomo Kenyatta. They had no problem with him. But the Americans looked at the government of Kenyatta with suspicion. They did not trust him, especially because of his stay in Russia. He stayed, I think, in Russia 1 year in the 40s or 50s. They did not trust his ideologies. They thought that it was very easy for him to slip towards the east, and leave the West hanging. So the Americans didn't really trust him. And anyway, the Americans had their man. His name was Tom Mboya. Now, on the other side, the British did not trust the Americans. They always believed that since Kenya was a former colony, they should have more influence here. So there was a kind of So what happened is there was a tug of war. If you've watched my series, Tom Mboya, New Evidence, you'll be able to know what happened, the outcome of that particular power struggle between these two powers. Okay, but for now we are focusing on 2017. What is the interest? What is the interest of these two particularly important partners to Kenya? And once we know the interest, we'll be able to guess what kind of interference could come in, what kind of interference would come into play. Make no mistake about it. You can start singing about Kenya being a sovereign state. You can sing that till the chickens come home. But the fact is, if a superpower like the US does not believe it is in their best interest for you to be president of Kenya, then it is very unlikely you will be president of Kenya, no matter how popular you are on the ground. Okay, these people have methods, they have ways, they have techniques of ensuring that you do not actually ascend to the presidency, and this has been done many times before. I've given the example of 2017, where the Americans stood between the people's choices and their own personal interests. You'll remember, let me just remind you so that you don't think I'm just shooting in the dark here. You remember in 2007, after those elections, do you remember the first country to congratulate President Kibaki on his re-election? And this is after such a contentious election where people said that the person who won actually did not win. There were so many question marks on that elections. And yet there was a country which was very quick to congratulate President Kibaki. Do you remember which country that was? Yeah, it was the US. Okay. Of course, later they retracted, or they they retrieved their congratulations. I have no idea how one does that, because once you've congratulated somebody, see, that's the end. Yeah, you've said congratulations, well done. So now do you come back and say, I want my congratulations and my well done back? Yeah, but anyway, that's politics. That's what happened. So that is, of course, that gives you a lot of question marks. Why were they so quick? Yeah, but now you know why they were so quick. Okay, so on to 2017. I covered this very extensively in a special report in my club 1999. It should be of great interest to you, whichever side of the political divide you're supporting. It will be of great interest for you to find out exactly what their thinking is right now. Okay, of course, I've already given you quite a lot of background. I've already given you quite a lot of pointers of the thinking, and therefore, once you read the report, it will all come together. Yeah, if you're already a member of Club 1999, just check in your inbox. You should see that report, and then everything will be able to come together, and so that you understand going forward what's happening. This is Chris Kumekucha. Till next time. Just before I go, of course, if you're not yet a member of Club 1999, just go to kumekucha.blogspot.com. You'll find out how to become a member in a few seconds. Yeah, and you don't need to pay anything. Thank you. Bye.